Hello there folks, this is Ferenc on board again. Welcome to my YouTube channel, a place where I discuss different topics about spirituality, psychology, at rare times psychiatry, game development, more like game design, rarely scripting for my game, and as I develop it I may show from time to time some of its aspects being built. Game interpretation, if you're really interested in finding someone to play your game and provide you with some valuable feedback, feel free to hit me up into the comments and ask me for that. I'm glad and I'm looking forward to helping people with this, at least for the moment. And from time to time my YouTube channel also presents some of my personal interpretations and answers to different questions on Quora, because I find it much easier to answer certain people's questions and post them on YouTube than link them to their questions, so that people both on Quora and on YouTube can actually find them. And with some of the wisdom I have acquired, I can actually at least try to help people into different social medias. Okay, now the question for today was presented by someone quite a while ago, and as of today I felt somewhat ready to provide an answer to, and it is one of the questions that I think many people actually ask, and it is about the unfairness of the world and last lies and giving importance. Okay, this is a very important point. Okay, attractive, this is another point. So feeling exhausted and worried, thinking about all the wrongdoings in the world, and the real question itself is, how can I actually calm myself down? Now this is a very strong question, and most people actually I think many people can actually feel this, and it has to do with themselves, not with the world. Okay, there was an answer to this question somewhat below. I read it briefly. It actually was a good answer. It is a good answer, and it presents in short kind of what I wanted to present, to come up to convey through my own experiences. Now the point is, okay, so the person begins the question with an affirmation. I am. Okay, these are the best, one of the strongest words in the world, because these are what many people, especially wise people, call as the reality shapers. Every time you pronounce I am, it's basically like a spell, and whatever comes afterwards is going to conjure some magic that will simply shape your reality based on that. So if you say I am annoyed, you're technically weaving a reality, okay, for yourself, in which you accept those things, okay, in this case this list, okay, you accept those things to annoy you. Now what it means by being annoyed, and probably I'm going a bit deeper than I should, what it means to be annoyed is that basically on seeing these things, okay, you suddenly emit, or you allow yourself to be triggered by them, and in such a way that you produce annoyance. Now annoyance is a type of pain, and pain is usually representative of a lack of something or multiple things. And where there is a lack of things, okay, or even thoughts towards lack, this is usually an invitation for different parasitic entities and all sorts of lower vibrational thought forms to hop aboard the consciousness. Okay, because each being is basically a bit of consciousness. I don't believe in the idea of a soul. I'd rather call it a facet of consciousness, and facet of consciousness is something theoretically similar to a soul, but much wider and much more complex, as of my point of view, because people kind of seem to present the idea of a soul, but they rarely seem to convey what that soul would actually be. Like, okay, what do you mean through a soul? Most people imagine it as some kind of ghost, some kind of piece of energy that is clumped together, and it has the shape of a human, or probably some would go even further and it has the shape of an animal. But the question is, why would this soul be that important? Okay, now call it a soul, call it a facet of consciousness, call it whatever you want. It is very important that as a facet of consciousness, we explore in the name of consciousness, and our purpose is to just learn and experience. This is the whole simple requirement of life. You are sent here by consciousness, okay? You are a bit from the broad consciousness, okay? The beings that have allowed everything that exists around us to live, to exist and expand, okay? So technically everything that you see is part of a consciousness. Now if we are to take consciousness as a whole is not something that is definable, as you know, opposed to most people's beliefs, okay? So you have to understand that there are multiple levels of existence and multiple dimensions. Call them levels of existence, whatever. All these levels of existence, they have their own levels of perception, okay? I'm not sorry for this parenthesis. I love over delivering, and this is important, okay, because I'm gonna shape a bit more awareness, okay, before I answer some deeper questions, okay? So as you go beyond a certain level of awareness, you will realize that there is no longer a need for how to call it, for definitions, okay? Now probably you have heard things about the 3D, okay, the 3D level of consciousness, which is specifically this world. Now this world is highly represented by control, okay? And if you take care of these, if you look at these, okay, annoyed, unfair, lust, lies, adultery, okay, giving more importance, attractive, okay, exhausted, okay, thinking, worried, all these aspects probably are not fully aware yet, but I'm gonna dive you a bit into that. All these aspects actually have a vibration of control. Now control is not necessarily just that of dominating other people, okay, be it sexually or whatever way, okay? It's not necessarily that, okay? Control is a bit more elevated, and it's a bit more it's a bit trickier to fully understand, because control usually comes from within, and control also comes from a lack of it. This may be a bit confusing, so let's actually dive a bit into it. Okay, so first of all, there are different levels of existence, and up to a certain point you will require definitions and all sorts of things, okay? When you transcend this world, okay, be it, you know, like in full, like psychologically, spiritually, mentally, or just mentally, or just more like psychologically and especially spiritually, the point about this world's limitations is that they will remain behind, okay? Imagine this 3D experiencing, okay, as a balloon, and you're suddenly capable of bypassing the balloon, okay, with at least a part of yourself. When you go beyond, you will see that whatever is specific to this balloon, okay, remains in there. Once you transcend this three-dimensional aspect of existence, you'll see that definitions are no longer important, okay? Ever since I was young, I always told myself that I have starting from a certain day, I told myself that I actually have concept of version. I kind of don't like speaking and talking. It feels in a way primitive to me. And yes, I know I am a starseed, and I might have a deep sense of royalty in a certain way. So I assure you, it's no sense of narcissism or something like that. But I just feel that talking in a way is so primitive when at times I just feel I can be just near several people and I can feel their vibe. So I don't even need that much to talk to certain people to feel some of their pains, some of their vibes. Because the vibe of a person doesn't necessarily mean they're bad if their vibe is low, okay? In a way it is still bad, but they might at one time, on one way, okay, they are not necessarily the only ones whose fault is that their vibration is lowered, but at the same time it's still their fault, okay? It's all about the fluctuations of control, okay? So the aspect of a three-dimensional consciousness, okay, is revolving around the aspect of control, okay? Starting from, you know, the lowest chakra, that of Muladhara, okay, which is survival, then to enjoying life, the second one, Swadhisthana, and creativity and life force, to the third one, which is Manipura. Now Manipura is the chakra of the seat of power, okay, the personal power, the personal understanding, confidence, and that is only when that chakra is basically aligned. Now society, parents, friends, entourage, so many countless factors make sure that we are becoming more and more imbalanced. Okay, in life traumas are important because by going through traumas you broaden your spiritual age, okay, your spiritual wisdom actually, and based on that other lives that you live will actually benefit from this. But let's not focus on future lives and past lives because these are usually something that happen at the same time. So previous lives and future lives are kind of misunderstood in a way because time is kind of misunderstood. So about this world, okay, and actually let's start with the idea of control. Okay, so many people, and kind of to a certain extent everyone, seeks control. Okay, like let's say 90% of people blindly seek control because that is what they have actually been feeling throughout their lives. And I really would want you to dive deeper into yourself and actually go back into your history, okay, go back into your childhood, into your teenage areas, and remember as many of these moments, okay, when you had expectations. And again, expectation is a wish for control, but a wish is technically an acknowledgement, okay, that you do not have that certain thing. Okay, so let's say that you're a guy in your teenage, okay, and you want a certain girl, okay, I repeat, you want a certain girl, okay. There you will be playing in your mind so many things, okay, so many illusions and dreams in which you'll probably be fucking that girl, you'll probably be dominating that girl, or she'll probably be your mistress, all sorts of games, or you'll probably be taking care of her, she will take care of you, you'll have a long and happy life, and all of these things that do nothing else than build different stories. Now a story is nothing else than a belief, and belief means nothing else than accepting something without the need for a proof, okay. So the question is, okay, you will probably imagine all day long that you'll bang that girl, or you'll bang that guy, or that guy is gonna be your greatest fit for you as a girl, but the question is, where is actually your proof, okay, because unless you actually experience things, okay, you're not gonna have any proof. And experiencing things is what most people nowadays, and school does a very good thing at this, okay. Experiencing things is what can actually and will always help you expand. Now school does a good job at teaching people to be afraid of outcomes and be afraid of failures, okay, and all these expectations that people build, these expectations build more and more because people are afraid of trying things. So instead of trying, they just prefer dreaming, and the more they dream, again, they start diving down this death spiral because they simply refuse to experience things. And with refusing to experience things, there's nothing else remaining than just imagining more and more. And your imagination works in no other way than based on the pure aspects that you have fed your mind with. Your conscious mind goes on by the totality of thoughts you have been feeding your mind, okay, and that includes everything from grudges to hatred to porn to I don't know, literally everything you have been feeding your mind with. Documentaries about science, good. Have you seen, I don't know, different soap operas? Good. Those may actually also have an impact. And literally everything that you've been feeding your mind up till now, they will actually service in feeding your imagination. You have to understand that your mind is nothing else than an engine of creation, and its purpose is to create thoughts again and again. Imagine your mind as a bacteria, okay? So these bacteria, why bacteria are some of the most advanced beings on this planet, even if, like despite their size, they are beings who can play with even 500 different substances, okay? They are constantly creating, altering, shaping different substances in reaction to their environment, okay? They are technically chemical facilities, okay, in which they play with dozens, hundreds, depending on species, okay, they play with dozens and hundreds of substances, okay, as they react to the environment, okay. They can create protective proteins, they can do so many things, okay. That's how your mind works, because the mind is nothing else than a, let's say, a projection technically of the brain, and the brain is nothing else than, again, a chemical processing facility, because the brain works on so many chemical reactions, okay. These reactions have are actually the result of thought processes, of emotions, and literally so many complexities that represent our body. As now you are becoming slowly more aware of the wider things that I always take into account compared to most people who just go straight ahead to something, one has to understand that in order to perceive something and understand it for what it is, you have to go in multiple directions, okay. It's like you envelop that thing and then you gorge on it, okay. So now that we know a bit about the brain, let's actually dive a bit further. So the brain basically would work, let's make this comparison, just like a bacteria. Now the problem of bacteria is the so-called bacteriophages, okay. These are viruses that specifically attack the bacteria, okay, and many viruses being 1,000 times smaller or somewhere like that, okay, usually 1,000 times smaller than the bacteria, many of them have the ability to attach themselves to the surface. That's how exactly parasitic entities work. They attach themselves to a different dimensional body and then they inject some code inside. And what happens usually is you'll have suddenly a thought popping into your mind, and you'll also have the impression that, oh my god, this thought is not giving me peace, this thought is pissing me off. But pay great attention to things that you are saying, okay, because those things that you are saying are technically your story. And again, story is a belief, and a belief is something like accepting you have accepted but without the necessity for proof. So this world is pissing you off, okay, that's the story, because it is full of lust, full of lies, adultery, and so on and so forth, okay. Now the question is, what is your proof that these things are actually annoying you, okay? Because as I've been saying, you being annoying by this is just basically nothing else than a story you have been creating, and you have been nurturing it again and again every time you burst into anger, okay. But you have to understand that that anger that you manifest, okay, is just because of some stupid stories, okay. You have technically transformed yourself into a virus, and you have injected the code, okay, into the mind, which is the bacteria, because the virus cannot replicate itself, okay. It requires a host, and it injects its RNA coding, okay, into that host. It does several alterations, and when the bacteria would reproduce itself, instead of multiplying itself, now it reproduces the virus, okay. So technically that's why certain thoughts will still continue to pop up into your mind. Now the problem is you have to manifest them in a way, okay. You have to understand that these thoughts you should actually not ignore, because the more you ignore, you're putting them inside of you, okay, and in your subconscious mind they will start breeding more and more. Every time you push those things down inside you, okay, you repress these things, well, that's how you actually commit to creating another one of those viruses, okay. Like the bacteria is now infected, and instead of replicating itself, it simply replicates more viruses. And you have to understand that at a certain time there will be so many viruses inside of you that you will simply burst, and most likely you're gonna burst into anger, and as you burst into anger, you're simply spreading all those parasites to literally everything around. And notice that I said everything around. So those viruses will be now technically living on your pillow, on the walls of your house, and on your books and whatever. Any idea that hasn't been fulfilled will always seek to become pure. This is something very deep. So these viruses, these ideas of anger that you have created, these are ideas and thoughts that are not quite fulfilled, okay. They don't have any fulfillment. you just threw them out, and that's like technically incomplete creation. Okay, and these simply dissipate in time. Depending on the amount of anger that you have put out, there is a little problem. Some of them might actually be at least a bit conscious. Okay, every time you think of something, you may actually end up creating at least a bit conscious thought forms. Okay, and these can actually become parasitic. Now, even if they are unconscious thought forms, okay, they still have the lowest vibration possible, which is that of survival. So being under the threat of extinction, okay, because of their little bit of consciousness that you put through them when you manifested your anger or hatred, or I don't know, whatever other manifestation, okay, you have put some consciousness into them. So they are technically afraid of dying because that's the lowest vibration in this universe. So they will actually become somewhat parasitic. So if you watch your auric field, most likely it is filled with so many thoughts that you have taken from others, directly or indirectly. Go to my channel, and if you click on my channel, you'll see that I have some videos on something called the pendulum effect, and feel free to go through some of my other videos, because as I over deliver, there are different other ideas, okay, that I convey, so that I make things a bit a bit easier to understand. So I have several videos on these things as well, and how things theoretically existing there from times before your arrival can influence you when you arrive, okay, based on your own vibration. And as I'm going on, okay, like I can go on like this for quite a lengthy time, I think. Let's actually go a bit deeper into the aspect of the mind. Okay, so these stories, once you create them, they are exactly like your operating system. Okay, you attach yourself to those, and attachment means accepting some parasites. Okay, you're creating some usually these are subconscious contracts that beings from beyond your consciousness not necessarily force you, but they make you agree to those because you're angry, okay, and you think everything is against you. And every time you manifest anger, there are slight chances that you're gonna accept some more of these entities that simply are parasites. Okay, parasites are nothing else than the vibration of survival. Okay, there is no such thing as a happy parasite, or a parasite that would care for you. All it cares is its survival, because that's their basic mechanic, that's their core mechanic. All they're interested in is their survival. So the point is, you have to understand that you have to start releasing these things. And well, if you feel you cannot release them, at least try to make different stories. And different stories mean a different spell. Okay, I am spells. Okay, like you can say I am loving myself, right, and do some of those meditations, some of those mind altering meditations, in which you start actually shaping your core beliefs into something much better, something that is actually suiting you. Now, the world has always been like this. Okay, to many it's a shock that the world is full of lust, it's full of lies, it's full of adultery, mainly because now we have social media, we have all sorts of ways that news can travel through, and these actually amplify the way all this information is shared. So now all that happens is that you have so many more ways of actually getting in contact with this negativity. But this has always existed. Don't think that all these negativities have started right now in this century or in the previous century. Oh, no. These are aspects, as I said, of control. And we've been living in the third dimension of consciousness for like so many time, so long, like probably and most likely even before the ancient times. Okay, and this is a path that we as a collective consciousness chose, because it is our point to, well, in discovering ourselves, who we are, what we are, the extent of our powers. Okay, and in order to do that, you have to go through the deepest cores of yourself. That is why in ancient Egypt, for example, most if not all their temples actually had this message on their entrance: know yourself. okay, know thyself, because when you get to know yourself, this is something this is basically the most important thing. When you get to know yourself, getting to know literally everything else is easy. Like, I have been receiving guidance and answers out of straight nowhere, okay, throughout my time when I felt ready. Why? Well, throughout my life, ever since I was quite young, I would simply question things. I simply could not allow things. Simply could not believe or trust things without actually taking them into account myself. Of course, not in all cases, because I was still young and fresh, and there's so many temptations in this world. But again, I placed hundreds, if not thousands, of questions, okay, and well, probably less. I don't know exactly, but I constantly, kept asking and asking, and through whatever way I would be guided towards some random video, or I would find someone who would come by me, and they would tell me something, and everything seemed to be like a small brick put towards something. And when I was ready, I would receive a video. I would have some videos haunting me on YouTube, like literally stalking me every time I was looking at different things. Irrespective of the field, that video would stay there until I would actually watch it. Probably there would be a short while in which it would no longer appear, and then it would gloriously appear again. Okay, so there are so many things happening behind that, we shape through the power of our existence, okay, because we attract nothing more than the vibration of what we are. Now, why did I said at the beginning that so many words of this question are actually control based? Okay, so annoyed is an aspect of control. Okay, why? Because through annoyance, okay, you're technically ceding your power. That which annoys you controls you. That is why that is why the poster actually asked, how can I calm myself down? Okay, if you look at things much deeper than they technically are, okay, because I'm not interested in the words, I can't care about the words. And notice that I said can't, okay, it is a natural process, okay. I am not affected here by what the person says, and simply whatever is here doesn't have any importance to me. However, through my empathy, I prefer sharing some of my wisdom. Now, why this is not important is because I feel a lot of pain in here, and this is a pain that I'm also going through, and specifically because of this I can attest to this. And it's much easier for me to understand it because I've been going through such pains as well, okay. It shows empathy, it shows that you're somewhat in tune with some of the wrongdoings in the world, okay. And you have to understand the world has never been perfect. So whatever annoys you actually controls you, okay? You're playing a reverse game of controlling here. You're controlling yourself, but not in the best way possible. I have a video on YouTube, I released it some while ago. It's called Why the Master is the Slave and Why the Slave is the Master, or something like this. Click on my channel and go to videos. It's much easier to scroll down and see it rather than looking on YouTube, because it's probably still not in those most searched for videos, so it's probably gonna be a bit trickier to find. And yes, all my videos about introspection start with deeper understanding, so it's one way to actually be sure that is one of my videos, okay. And I'm not saying that I'm the best or the perfect wisdom sharer, okay. Now, annoyance, okay, this is a reverse control. Why I say reverse control? Because everything in this world is taught in reverse, okay. Everything that most likely in reverse, because the truth can never be told. Ever remember one of those times when you knew something and you knew it so well, okay, you knew that it would happen, so you knew that it would be so, you knew that that would be the outcome, whatever possible, and you tried to warn certain people, you tried to pull them back from doing whatever they wanted to do, and well, eventually they failed. And up till then they would laugh in your face, and then you probably like slapped yourself in the forehead and you were like, oh my god, I so hate being right. Most likely it happened to you once, at least once it must have happened, okay. So this is a point of being a bit more in tune with yourself and understanding certain things or seeing certain things beyond the illusions that most people may not or simply choose not to pierce beyond. Now, annoyance is a game in which you dominate yourself. Okay, it's technically you're putting a leash on yourself and you're technically slapping yourself, or I don't know, it's like you're simply looking for that master or mistress to dominate you, but in a lack of the such, you're actually doing that to yourself. Okay, now why this may sound funny and confusing is because when you feel confusion, it means that something within you is actually breaking down. So if I made you confused with this, most likely something got pissed. Okay, some beings within you that they were kept on you. Okay, they're kind of pissed. Okay, they don't like that suddenly you're starting to push them away. So how this works is, let's call it like this. Okay, so in your ethereal life, okay, your ethereal body exists, and through whatever we do, imbalances, traumas and the such, we're inviting, and not only us, different circumstances that in most situations we don't have much control over. We have these parasites that come upon us because parasites feed upon pain. Okay, they feed upon our pain because they feed upon our hatred, they feed upon our I don't know, repulsion, fanaticism, or whatever causes us or any other people around us pain, or animals or whatever. Every time we spread pain, be sure that there are such beings around that force you to do so because they're hungry and they want to feed on pain. This is of course most likely not 100% the situation, but whenever you create pain, be sure that there will be some beings who come around and feed upon that. Now those beings may not necessarily be parasited upon you, okay, like attached to you specifically. They might be upon your parents, upon abusive persons specifically that you are in contact with. Could be your boss, could be your work mates, could be even your spouse, could be anyone. And now this game of annoyance, okay, is technically when you create such stories that things annoy you. Okay, what you're doing is on your ethereal body, you know that in the etheric realm there are these kind of, let's call them leeches. Okay, and when they leech blood from you, or well, life energy, okay, they also secrete something that inhibits your capacity to feel that in certain situations. Okay, now let's say that those ethereal leeches actually inject a certain code within you that makes you somewhat hallucinogenic, because so many of these, once they see that you have built some stories, they will, in their parasitic awareness, they will ferociously fight, okay, so that they will impose, or they will have you constantly feed those stories because their existence is based on those stories. Technically, those stories of yours are the contracts that allow those beings to come onto you. Through creating these stories, you are basically creating a contract that says, hey, I'm looking for parasitic entities to torment me, right? Just like you see those ads and saying, slave looking for mistress, slave looking for master. It's technically nothing else than that. Okay, and annoyance is, you love inflicting pain on yourself. That's the point of annoyance. Okay, you dominate yourself to induce pain to yourself because you really love feeling that sensation of pain, but that feeling of loving of pain does not belong to you. That feeling of fulfillment is nothing else than those parasitic beings being fulfilled, as their hunger is now fulfilled, at least for a certain time. And you'll see that after these ideas, after this pain inflictment, there is a situation in which you feel tranquil because these parasites are now full. Okay, they've made their full, they're no longer hungry, so they simply no longer have a need for you. But it doesn't mean they've left. They're still there, but they're just waiting for that. They're gorging, right? They're nom-nom-nomming on your juicy energy, okay? Your energy that you've been putting out. And, well, they're technically waiting to become hungry again because they know they have a sucker. They have a, like a host to produce them more energy, right? It's as easy as that. And, well, when the idea comes, you'll start paining yourself again. Just like throughout history, people would flog themselves in in the name of having sinned, and those again were nothing else than stories they made up, and they would flog themselves, and there would be these parasites who would really love them to do that, because uh, through that pain, well, that pain was technically their lunch. Okay, now, unfair world. Okay, this world is just a world. Okay, it is not fair, it is not unfair. When you say unfair, that is a meaning, and again, meaning means control. Okay, so technically, in your lack of self-love, and again, lack requires, lack implies parasitic beings giving you a hug and cuddles, and this is not good because they will make you pain yourself and they will feed upon that, reminding reminding us of a quote in English that says, never what was it? Oh yes, never swim with the pig, because that means swimming in its mud, okay, getting dirty, and the pig will like it. So, fair and unfair and all adjectives are nothing else than meaning that you give to certain things, and they are nothing else than story amplifiers. Okay, it's just like those ads. They don't present you a certain project, they project a certain project, a product, a webinar, or whatever. They come up with different juicy expressions that make that sound even better, because the purpose of selling something, okay, is the feelings and emotions that you're actually selling, because you're not technically selling a product, you're selling emotions. That's one of the best hidden secrets of sales that most people simply fail to understand. You're selling emotions, okay, because technically the ad is not selling you a game, okay, it's selling you the emotions, right, the dreams that you are building in your mind, okay, imagining that you will meet so many people and you'll have such great times, which in a way can actually be true, and in many situations it can be true, but people's lower vibrations will usually inhibit that. Okay, so fair, unfair, and all these are nothing else than dreams, okay, things that you use to make those stories even more plausible. So congratulations, you have sold yourself a story. Okay, you have created some shit and you have sold it to yourself, just like Mr. Bean would give himself gifts in the New Year's Eve, because he was alone and he didn't have any friends. Okay, lust, lies, adultery, okay, people giving more importance to attractive people, and so on. These are nothing else than a bad channel that you have attuned your mind to. It's like, instead of watching some of those beautiful and rare movies that can be found on Netflix or whatever, you're just watching the crappy news that, like, you're technically mad, okay? Because what madness means is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting something else, okay? And many people indeed are mad. They watch the news, and why do they watch the news? It's like they expect the news to give them something good, but instead you'll just be finding the same things. Slaughters, car crashes, I don't know, plane crashes probably, rapes, I don't know, murders, everything that is technically bad, right? And the more you attune yourself to that, the more you have the impression that the whole entirety of the world is basically that. Like, all this means to me, all this tells me that, well, you simply lack a purpose in life, okay? Because you have so much time to think on these negative aspects that you technically don't have anything to do with your life. Like, why not go back into history, okay, into your history, okay? Because if we take history into account, it's nothing else than a distraction, because it's called his story for a reason. And you have to understand that English is an occult language. I'll probably drop a video on this at a later time, but the point is about let's say it like this: why not go back into your own history, into your childhood or whatever period of time that you would do something that you really loved? Why not actually do that more often and dispel those stories that you are now too grown up to ride a bike, or to skateboard, or to play football, or to do some of those beautiful bike tricks, or football tricks that they would fill you with so much joy? Or why not do those things like drawing that you really loved back then? Okay, so why actually not focus more on that? And you'll see that the more you focus on things, or if you want a big purpose in life, why not find something that will provide people on the planet with a lot of value? Like, why not start creating some video games? Why not create some softwares? Or why not find something that you can do in such a way to simply, provide people with value? Why not choose to become a counselor? Okay, you must have something within you that, it's unique to yourself and you can offer to people, just like I am doing through YouTube. Oh yes, of course, there is that story that says that you suck, you are bad, you're ugly, you're not beautiful enough, you're technically not having enough. As I said, you've been creating these beautiful stories, okay, you've been creating this shit, and well, guess what? You've been the producer of this shit, and up till now most likely you've been the only buyer of that shit, okay? Because you would technically convince yourself to buy that shit from yourself, and guess what? Most likely you've been your own customer. So how about we actually drop this, okay, and start doing several things that will benefit you more? Like, how about you go and, move your butt in nature a bit and see how tranquil nature is, okay? How about you take your car and go for a ride in a forest, okay? So long as you don't get lost, okay? But just take a stroll in the forest, okay? Especially if there are no wild animals you can come across, and most likely do it during the day, because most wild animals actually sleep then. And see how peaceful nature actually is, and you'll see suddenly that, hey, who the heck cares about lust, lies and adultery, okay? Every person has, their level of awareness, and you can actually go and see some of my videos on, the idea of video games. I also have a video on how to be a fully fledged gamer, and this means how to play this game of life, because life is nothing else than a video game. And I think I was in the 6th grade when I thought of this first, actually when this idea came to my mind. And exploring video games is technically like exploring different lives, but again, it is good to do a bit of everything, okay? Not just spend too much time in a certain place, okay? Now so as I was saying, it is okay, it is okay to feel bad, it is okay to feel angry, okay, it is okay to live out that anger, okay, to manifest it, okay, to start spinning in circles in your room and start spewing, swears and curses, and imagining how you would kill a certain person or how you would choke them by their neck, okay. And it's always good to use the accumulated rage and anger, okay, to create certain things, but make sure you're not overdoing that, okay. It is good to vent off the negativity when you are alone. It is much better to do this than when you are around with other people, because that is why most people are freeloaders, okay. They just come into your life, they pour their shit on you, and then they go, because that's how many people are. So find yourself more alone time and start thinking what are the things that you want to do with your life, because you have a life, and the reason why you have a life is because you have a greater purpose. As compared to most of these beings, these other humans, most of them who seem to be nothing else than machines, well, to a deeper level, they're technically people who remind you that you have certain things that you have been ignoring in yourself, and that is why you will be seeing these, how I call them, machine people, okay, or NPCs, right? NPCs in this video game of life. I feel so exhausted and worried thinking about all the wrongdoings in this world. Okay, of course you are feeling exhausted, because technically thinking so much and playing this, pesty little game of how to induce more pain on yourself, of course it is exhausting, because all that energy that you have, all that life force, you are channeling on how to pain yourself even more. And your body is telling you and signaling you through your emotions that, hey, something is not good, something is wrong, you're not doing something good. And that is why you have a lot of exhaustion, anxiety, and depression. Now, what does it mean to actually feel depressed? Because, as I said, English is an occult language, so you have to also seek deep beyond its words, okay? So what does it mean? You see, the correct way is not I am depressed, okay? You can actually say that if you understand the meaning of depressed, but the point is you actually need depressed, okay? First of all, you require depressed, because depressed, if you actually pronounced it slower, it actually means deep rest. Okay, that is actually what depressed would mean. Okay, depression comes from a great sense of needing rest. Okay, you need rest. You've been paining yourself so much, you've been doing so much shadow work, you've been doing so much development, and there are so many thousands of events that influence your life, and you're not having too much control over it. You're throwing out so much shit that you have been acquiring through previous parallel lives and through this life also, and just that you are not aware of those things, it doesn't mean they don't happen. Life is also a cycle of highs and lows, and to many people it feels like there's only lows because you're focusing too much on that, instead of also focusing more on gratitude. Okay, you probably have a place where to live, you are still alive. Okay, some people today didn't wake up, and they're missing on so much beauty, because if you focus yourself on the news and how theoretically perfect other people's lives are, you're just gonna miss out so much. Every minute that you spend on hatred and anger is actually 1 minute that you lost that you could have spent on happiness. Okay, now about worrying, worry and fear are the most powerful attractors in the world. Okay, ever had those moments when you would worry about things and they would actually happen? It's because worrying and fear are the best attractors in the world. Why do you think everything is so based on fear? Because some beings, okay, some very powerful beings, control the majority of people through pain, through fear, okay, panic and worrying. Okay, and by shaping their beliefs, okay, making these people fear a world that doesn't exist yet. Okay, and why there are so many like post-apocalyptic movies being pumped out, because by having more and more people think about that as a plausible end to our world, guess what, that may actually happen. And don't forget, these beings don't have any feelings towards you, they're just parasites, so it's only about their survival. Okay, they need your pain, and they need your anxiety, they need your depression, they need you to worry, to fear, so that they can feed. That's all. That's all you need to know. There's no need to read thousands of books on occult societies and conjuring demons and the such. No, that's the simplest, deepest truth that you can actually read about in this world, but you also have to feel it. Okay, as I said, so many people are probably not ready or not willing to embrace such a simple truth, because usually the truth is very simple, but creating a lot of emotion, a lot of meaning, it just overcomplicates things, and that's why things actually end up hurting. Okay, so worrying and fear are very powerful attractors, and why they work so well with the law of attraction is because the universe works on images and works also on emotions. And guess what you do when you're worried and when you're feared for something? And worry usually implies fear as well. Well, you're imagining certain possibilities, okay, certain future events, okay, and you're also putting a lot of emotions into those. Technically, you're begging the universe for that thing to happen. Ever worried that your son, or someone close goes on a journey, okay, and you start thinking of all those events in which their plane would crash, their car would crash, their train would crash, I don't know, something bad would happen to them? Congratulations, you've been doing nothing else than begging the universe for that thing to happen. And one reason why you're also feeling utterly bad is because you're technically an evil person. You've been wishing your whole life, and you've been programmed to do this, and everyone is most likely programmed to do this, to worry, because through worrying you're technically begging the universe for these bad things to happen to those people. And worse than that, most likely you're not even grateful that those things didn't happen. And you also have to understand that imagining these bad things also has a certain level of repercussion based on your awareness, because you have to understand your thoughts create your reality. There is a special type of neurons in your brain, and these support something that's called confirmation bias. Every time you think of something, these neurons are desperately seeking for whatever possible that will attest to what you have been thinking. So if you think that you suck, the only attention that you will give you will give that to, anything that falls as a priority. If someone congratulates you on doing something, well, that's not going to be a priority because you suck, right? That's your story that you believe, okay? That's the contract that you said, okay, I'm looking for parasites to actually, feed off of this contract, and I'm giving you free energy because, I'm not loving myself, right? That's how things are. So when someone suddenly comes and they tell you, hey, you suck, your project is so bad, finally, cha-ching, an idea, okay, that falls as priority because that's the story you have been following, and that is why that idea will be so important to you, okay? And how can you calm yourself down? Well, I've presented this a bit. Find yourself things that you can do that are much better, that will actually will help you develop yourself, okay, will help you become much better. Don't try what people promote as social engineering, or, well, that's my term for it. It's called personal development. I have videos about that, why personal development is bad, because, well, to put it in a nutshell, it's bad because personality means a mask and development means to create from zero. So technically personal development is how to become compliant to societal norms. I discuss about this in other videos, directly and indirectly. So calming yourself down is done by realizing that your purpose as a being in this universe is nothing else than an observer. Don't create meaning to things, just embrace them the way they are. Thoughts are not good, thoughts are not bad, actions and results are not good, they are not bad. People are not hideous, people are not beautiful, just view things the way they are. Look at a person and embrace any judgment that may come, but don't reside in it, okay? So you see a person, you don't like them, oh, I hate that person so much, okay, let that thought flow. Don't put it back inside because you're just going to nurture it again. The moment you start doing this, you will see that there is a flood of these things because you're pissing off some parasites, and they will remind you, hey, you have a contract, you must feed us. And you're gonna not honor that contract when you start letting judgments flow, okay? And basically the contract is something that you can simply destroy at any given moment. Yes, it's much trickier than it sounds, but again, it's tricky because you make it so. Hopefully you liked this type of video. I know I've been talking for quite a while. My videos tend to be very lengthy because I prefer giving people a very introspective approach. So you are loved and appreciated. Keep up doing the great work. All these having been done, hugs. Well, I wish you all the best. Keep developing yourself more and more. Keep becoming more introspective to see that the truths you've been looking for are, well, nowhere else than within yourself. All this being said, you are loved and appreciated. Feel free to like and subscribe if you like the type of content that I'm creating, or at least share it with others so that we help raise the awareness of people. And, well, if you can redirect people to my account, I also feel grateful. You are loved and appreciated. Ferenc Board signing out.